Hey, everybody, we're live. Good morning from Vienna in Austria. Hello there. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, no matter where in the world you're tuning in from. I hope it's not too late there, huh? Remember that this is self-paced. This is all going on YouTube, so the recordings will be up there. You won't miss a thing if you tune in later on. Wonderful to see you. Oh my gosh, 3 in the morning here in Indiana. Well, good morning, technically. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to day 2 of the free JavaScript Bootcamp. If you're tuning in for the first time, hi, my name is Ramon. We are teaching a 6-week bootcamp for the FreeCodeCamp certification. Before we get started, I just want to throw out a couple of links and a couple of reminders. If you're interested in signing up for the bootcamp, you can enroll here in classcentral.com, which you see here at the bottom. You can also sign up at FreeCodeCamp if you want to follow along. If you want to just like watch today and do the exercises later at your own pace, that's totally fine too. If you want to ask questions, if you want to get informed and connect with your fellow learners, which I highly encourage, by the way, go check out the forum at group.classcentral.com. Also highly encourage you to find the link there to Discord. And if you have any problems with the bootcamp, please also email us at classcentral.com. And finally, one thing I forgot to mention yesterday that I want to mention today is we do have a code of conduct. This is a set of rules that we put out in place to make sure that everybody behaves in a positive, team building, and safe manner. So please check that out. That's classcentral.com/js-bootcamp-fall-2022/code-of-content. So that's all good. That's all done. Hope you're all got something nice and either cool or warm to drink. I got my big thing of water. And with all that said, let's jump right into the bootcamp and today's set of lessons. One thing I want to point out as well is that I will be, keeping an eye on questions. If I don't answer them, don't worry. I want to dedicate half an hour after the core lesson to answering all of your questions. And we will prioritize questions related to the content. That doesn't mean that you can't ask us questions related to tech or tech careers and that sort of thing, but we really want to be able to help folks with the content itself, the bootcamp itself. So, and also be sure to ask questions in Discord, in the forum, all of those places. I think I covered everything. Let's jump right in. So I'm just going to share my screen. Here we go. So hope the size is okay. The size should be the same as yesterday. As always, if you need to be a bit bigger, please either consider making the screen full screen, or if you're watching on a mobile device, tilt the screen so that it shows it in full screen. And again, if you missed yesterday's lesson, remember, all of this is on YouTube. You can watch it. You can watch it at your own pace. All right. That was a lot to start off with. Let's jump right in. So we're doing the JavaScript algorithms and data structures certification on FreeCodeCamp. This is all free. You can go sign up at your own pace. So let's scroll down. We're doing the basic JavaScript module. Today, we're going to be doing the second part of that. And remember that yesterday I assigned some homework to do everything up until this lesson here, finding a remainder in JavaScript. So I'm going to click on that and hop right in. We're going right in. So yesterday, like the homework covered things like subtraction, multiplication, division. If you didn't do all of that, don't worry as well. I said, this is all self-paced. So if you need to catch up, do so. Go, you can watch this later on. So we're going to be doing remainders, which if you're familiar with them, fantastic. If not, we're going to cover that a little bit today. So let's talk a little bit about division. Before we look at the materials, I've got my code here on the right. I've got the instructions here on the left. And below, I've got the output. This is where console logs will go, which remember, console logs are our friend. So before I do anything with the code here, I'm just going to add a few lines and add a bit of code myself. I'm going to make a variable, a constant called my variable. Actually, let's be cool and just be short and make it my var. And we're going to set that to be 5, whoopsie, not K, 4 divided by 2. And I'm going to console log my var. So we're going to see we've created a variable constant called my var and set it assigned its value to be 4 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2, we can see that by console logging the variable itself is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Fantastic. But what about the remainder? If you've done this, if you've done this before, remainders are what is left over when you do a division. Let's try something else. What if we do 5 divided by 2? Now, if we console log my var, then we get 2.5. But if we do a whole division of 5 divided by 2, it can also be expressed as 5 divided by 2 would be 2 with remainder 1. If we divide 5 by 3, we get, woohoo, we can do 1.666666667. We get a lot of 6s. Now, 5 divided by 3 can also be expressed as 5 divided by 3, 1 with remainder 2. So what JavaScript gives us, and a lot of programming languages give us this too, is we can use, let me find the percent sign to tell us what that remainder will be if I divided 5 by 3. So remember, if I divided 5 by 3, I will have 1 with a leftover, a remainder of 2. Let's try a few more. If I divide 6 by 3, which gives us 2, what will the remainder be? 0. That's because 6 divides evenly by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Did you see me like struggling to do math? 6 divided by 3 is 2 with a remainder of 0. That's because it divides evenly. There's no decimal left over. What about 1 divided by 3? Pardon me, 1 divided by 1 gives us 0. What about 2 divided by 2? 0. 2 divided by 2 is 1 with a remainder of 0. So that's what this does. It's also known as the modulo character, but we're going to be calling it the remainder operator for the usage here. Now, one of the cool things about using this and why it's important to use is to be able to check whether a number is odd or even. For example, 17 divided by 2 is, well, actually, why am I doing that when I can do it here? 17 divided 17 modulo 1 is, wait, sorry, it's modulo 2. So 17 what is the remainder of dividing 17 by 2? So that will be 1. That's because if we divide 17 by 2, we will get, let's see, 8 with a remainder of 1. So what if we divide an even number like 16? It's 0. That means that if it's 0, we can check, okay, it's even, because if we divide something by 2 and the remainder is 0, it's even. If we divide something by 2 and the remainder is 1, then it's odd. Those are the only two values that they can have. Oh, look at that. The remainder operator is sometimes incorrectly referred to as the modulus operator. It's very similar to modulus, but does not work properly with negative numbers. So there you go. So now let's do our exercise. I'm going to delete my code here, and we're going to jump right in. We're going to set remainder, which is this variable we have on line 1, to the remainder of 11 divided by 3 using the remainder operator. So 11 with the remainder operator is 3. Sorry, with the remainder operator of 3. And let's console log that just to see what it's like. Right. So 11 divided by 3 leaves us a remainder of 2. But out of curiosity, what is 11 divided by 3? 3.6. So it's 3 with a remainder of 2. So that's how it works. So we've got a question from Asante that I just want to answer real quick. I know they use the module assign to check if a value is even or odd. Will the same concept hold in case of prime numbers and all? I think so. I think you can, yes, because you can use prime numbers to look, you can use the remainder operator to check if a number is prime by checking if it can be divided by, what is it? A number is prime if it can only be divided by itself or 1. I'm not going to cover that too much, but you can absolutely do that. So with all that said, const remainder of 11, remainder operator 3. Let's run our tests. And there we go. After every lesson, I always give ourselves a little pat on the back, and we'll just move on to the next one. So we're going to do next compound assignment with augmented addition. Now, before we look at the exercise, let's look at the code, what we have. So let A equals 3, we let B equals 17, let C equals 12. So we've got 3 variables here, which are declared with let because we're going to reassign their value. And here we set A to be equals to A plus 12, B to be equals to 9 plus B, and C equals to C plus 7. Let's console log those just to check what they are. And remember, we can do that with a comma, so we can check all 3 values at once, which is quite cool. Okay. So 3 plus 12 is 15. Very good. B, which is 17 plus 9. 17 plus 9 is 26. So then we've got C, which is 12, set to C plus 7, which is 19. So let's get right into what we're going to be learning in this module, which is that we can actually shorten this code. Instead of saying A equals A plus, we can say plus equals. So this is a shorthand for saying A equals A plus, and then this value. So A equals A plus 12. So we've got A equals A plus 12. We'll do the same for B. B equals B plus, it was 9. And we've got C equals C plus 7. So we're going to do C plus equals 7. And this nice shorthand lets us be able to write that code much more succinctly, much more short. And it looks a little nicer, doesn't it? So we can do that. And our assignment is to convert the assignments of A, B, and C to use the plus equals operator, which we've done. Here you can see it highlighted. So let's delete our console log. We've done that, so we'll run our tests. Let's see. There we go. Pat. Let's keep going. Compound assignment with augmented subtraction. So this is going to be very similar to what we did last exercise, but with subtraction instead. So instead of doing plus equals, what we can do is minus equals. So we'll convert the assignments for A, B, and C to use the minus equals operator. So let's see, we've got 3 variables, A, B, and C, which are set to 11, 9, and 3 respectively. A comment here saying only change the code below this line. And let's see, A equals A minus 6. So we know that we can do A minus equals 6. We can do B minus equals 15. And C minus equals 1. So just like with addition, we can do this with subtraction, a nice shorthand so that we don't have to write out the variable name twice. Let's run our tests. Yes, pat. Let's keep going. We're just going to keep knocking these out. Okay, see, we got a rhythm going now. Now we're going to do the same thing, but with multiplication. So we got 3 variables, A, B, and C, set to 5, 12, and 4.6. So we're going to convert the assignments to be A, B, and C to use the times equals operator. So let's see, we got A equals A times 5. So we do A times equals 5. We've got B equals 3 times B, which we can set to be times equals 3. And C equals C times 10. absolutely just like before. A times equals 5, B times equals 3, C times equals 10. Let's run our tests and see how that goes. And there we go. Pat, pat. Look at that. We're going fast today. I like it. Okay, cool. Same thing again, but for division. So let's jump right in. Our assignment is to convert the assignments A, B, and C to use the division equals operator. So let's do that. So A equals A divided by 12. That can be A divided equals. B equals B divided by 4, divided equals. C equals C divided by 11, C divided equals. Look at that, pretty straightforward. Let's run our tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. All right. We got a new exercise. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about strings again, because as you remember, we had the ability to create strings by having, let's take a look at the code here. Const, we have a variable called myString, and right now we have 2 quote marks, which tells us this is an empty string, which is all well and good. We can type, hello, JavaScripters. I say hi. Now, remember yesterday I said it all works, except we can't have quote marks inside a string because that will end the string. And that is mostly true. But what we can do, if we absolutely need to have quote marks inside a string, what do we do? Well, what we can tell the computer is, hey, the next character, this is going to be just a quote mark, not an actual quote mark to end a string. It's just like, please display this quote mark. And this is done using the backslash character. So let's do that. What we can do, because for example, hello JavaScripters, I say hi. I want that hi to have quote marks. What I can do is to use the backslash. That's not a backslash. Is this a backslash? Yes. The backslash and then add a quote mark. Backslash quote mark. Now, let me just shorten this string a little bit so it's on one line. Okay. So I've got I say hi. Now, this looks a little convoluted. We got a backslash followed by a quote mark, another backslash followed by a quote mark, and then the quote mark. Let's look at the output in the string. I say, and then in quote marks, hi. So what this lets me do is display this quote mark, which is quite cool. So let's look at our exercise. Use backslashes to assign a string to myString variable so that if you were to print it to the console, you would see I am a quote, double quoted quote, string inside quote, double quotes, quote, and then a full stop. Very important. Let's do just that. So I am a double quoted string inside double quotes, full stop. That's the string printed out, which looks good, but we still need those double quotes. So what we'll do is around here, we'll put in backslash quote. And then at the end there, we'll put another one, backslash quote. And then over here, we'll do another one, backslash quote. And then at the end here, before the full stop, we'll do backslash quote. Now let's look at the bottom. I am a quote, double quoted string inside double quotes. Phew. So that looks good, but do the tests agree? Let's find out. Yes, pat, pat. Nice, let's keep going. Aha. So here's another thing. String values in JavaScript may be written with single or double quotes, as long as you start and end with the same type of quote. Before we mess around with the string we have here, let me just add a few lines of code. Const test string equals hello, I am a string. Very console log test string. Oh, I'm printing out hello, I am a string. Now, what the exercise is telling us is that we can, instead of double quotes, we can also use the single quote character to denote a string. See? Hello, I am a string. However, it is extremely important that if you do this, the first quote mark and the last quote mark must be of the same type. You can't start with a single quote and end with a double quote. Very important. But why would you want to have this? Well, here's an example. Let's take a look at our exercise real quick. Change the provided string to a string with single quotes at the beginning and end and no escape characters. Escape is that backslash we were using last exercise. Right now, the A tag in the string uses double quotes everywhere. You will need to change the outer quotes to single quotes so that you can remove the escape characters. So let's delete my code here real quick and take a look at what we're dealing with. And I believe I should be able to resize this, right? Yes! Wonderful. This makes it so much better. I like having things on one line. So let's see. And if you're familiar with HTML, this will look a little bit familiar. If you're not and you're interested in learning HTML, by the way, go check out what Jess's web development bootcamp. It's really good. She's a much better teacher than I am. So let's see. We've got a tag here, ahref equals, and then we've got the escaped quote, example.com, unescaped quote, and then we've got the escape quote here and another escape quote here. And our objective is to change the string so that it doesn't have to use escape quotes. And what we can do is use the single quote string. So first of all, I'm going to replace the double quotes at the beginning and the end of the string to be with a single quote. So far, so good. But because these are single quotes, this actually gives me the ability to be able to use double quotes inside a string. This is the part that makes single quote strings really handy. Console log my string. And there you go. Look at that. A nice clean string. Now, a couple of people in the chat are wondering about backticks. All I want to say is hold your horses. We'll get there. Template literals are going to come up, and they're really good for putting expressions inside strings. We're not going to deal with that yet. We're going to keep going. So right now, so we've got a single quote mark, and we're not using backslashes anymore. Very good. Let's run the tests. Hey, pat. We're doing great, folks. So quotes are not the only characters that can be escaped inside a string. And there's actually loads of ways to be able to do this. So, for example, let's take a look at some of the types of things we can do. If we want to have a single quote inside a single quote string, we can have \quote. We learned this last time. We've got the double quote, which we can do. If we want to have a backslash, we have to do double backslash. Look at this. We can have a new line. What's a new line? Let's try it out. Console log my string. So right now, my string doesn't have a value, so it's not going to show up. But let's type in hello world. Oh, hold on. I don't need to console log because the exercise is already doing that, which is very nice. So my string's value is hello world. Let's try some of these out. So we've got backslash. Oh, where's our backslash? Backslash. Right now, nothing happened. But if I put in 2 backslashes, that gives me a single backslash. Folks, if you're joining in late, don't worry. This is all recorded. You will be able to rewatch it. Now let's try some of these other ones out. \n will give us a new line. So check it out. Now it's on 2 lines. Let's try r, carriage return. It's also a new line, and I'm a bit I'm not an expert on this, but I think it comes from typewriters. New lines, carriage returns. These names come from typewriters. Let's try the T for tab. See what happens. That gives us a tab. So like a whole bunch of space. Let's try a couple more. Word boundary. What does that mean? Who knows? But we can find this out in MDN later on. We don't need to know everything right away. So let's see what F does. Don't know either. Folks are asking, what are the difference between some like new line and N? I think there is a technical difference, but as far as this is concerned, it looks like it's adding a new line. And if you look on MDN, I'm sure you're going to be able to find that out. We can check that out after the lesson as well. But that's the long and short of how this works. So assign the following 3 lines of text into the single variable myString using escape sequences. So we're going to do a first line, then a line with what looks like a tab, followed by a backslash, second line, and then a new line with third line. You will need to use escape sequences to insert special characters correctly. You will also need to follow spacing as it looks above, with no spaces between escape sequences or words. Note, the indentation for second line is achieved with a tab escape character, not spaces. Good. So let's try that out. So we've got first line. Good. Then we need a new line. So we'll do \n. Then we'll need a tab. So that's \t. Then we'll need a backslash. So that's \\. And then we'll need second line. And check it out. It's already displaying. How cool is that? Finally, we'll need the third new line. So the second new line, pardon me. So that's \n followed by third line. This is how we use strings to be able to write multi-line, multi-spacing text. That's all well and good. So got first, and that looks kind of similar. The strings kind of look different, but that might be just the formatting of FreeCodeCamp versus my browser. Don't worry if it looks a little bit different. This is still a tab character. So let's run our tests. Yes. Pat, pat, pat. Oh, I did a triple pat. Okay. Ooh. Now, you remember yesterday, we did a little bit of concatenating strings or adding 2 strings together. This is how it works. If you take 2 strings, such as my name is Alan, comma, plus I concatenate, this allows us to be able to make one big string. Let's try it out real quick. Before we do any of this, let me add a few lines and just play around with it. I love playing around with stuff. First string, we'll make a variable called first string. Hello, I am A. Then we'll make a second one called second string equals space string. Let's console log first string plus second string. And that gives us a single string. Hello, I am a string. Now notice what I did here. I added a space. This is because if I add the 2 strings together without the space, check it out. Hello, I am a string. So that's how it works. So let's, and we can do this, of course, inline as well. Let's try it out. Let's make a new variable called big string. And we're going to set it to be equals to hello, I am A plus string. Of course, I will need to log big string. So hello, I am A plus string prints out hello, I am a string. So this is how it works. We can add 2 strings together with the plus sign, and this is called concatenation. So let's look at our exercise. Build meister from the strings, this is the start and this is the end, using the plus operator. Be sure to include a space between the 2 strings. So let's do that. So this is the start. It is not capitalized. I'm just going to give myself a little more space because I can. Plus, remember the space, this is the end. Now, before I do that, some of you might be wondering, can I add more than 1 string? Can I do this multiple times? And yes, absolutely you can. You can do, this is the start plus space plus this is the end. Yeah? So you can do this is the start plus space plus this is the end. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. I don't know if FreeCodeCamp is going to like it because maybe the exercise wants us to do 2 additions, but let's see. Nope, it liked it. Pat, pat. Nice. Let's keep going. So, we can use the plus equals operator. Remember that from the beginning of this lesson? So what we can do is use plus equals, just like we did with addition for numbers. We can do this with strings. So let's see what we got. Build Meister over several lines by concatenating these two strings. This is the first sentence and this is the second sentence, using the plus equals operator. Use the plus equals operator similar to how it's shown in the example to be sure to include a space between the two strings. Start by assigning the first string to Meister and then add on the second string. So let Meister equals. So this is the first sentence. Full stop. And just like in the example, we'll add the white space at the end of that string. Space. Next, we want to concatenate to that string Meister, remember, plus equals, just like with addition. This is the second sentence. Full stop. I'm just going to console log that because I want to make sure that it's working. Meister. Oh, I forgot a semicolon here. So we've got, this is the first sentence, space. This is the second sentence. Phew. That looks good. Let's see if my code, FreeCodeCamp agrees. Yep. Pat. Hey, we're making our way through. This is fantastic. So what do we got? Constructing strings with variables. We're still not at template literals. Don't worry if you don't know the name yet. We're gonna get there. So, example. What do we got? We've got a string called our name with FreeCodeCamp, and we've got on the left, that is, and const our string equals hello. Our name is plus our name plus how are you? Oh, that looks long and complicated. I would propose, let's copy this code and see what it does. Const our name, we've got a variable called our name, which is a string FreeCodeCamp. Then we've got const our stir equals hello. Our name is, with a space, very important, plus, see the rest of that, our name plus how are you? Let's console log that. I want to see what it does. Our stir. So hello, our name is FreeCodeCamp. How are you? So what have we done here? We've got a string here. Then we've added to it a variable, which is our name. And then how are you? Now, fun fact, this can also work with numbers. Let's change our name to be 56. Check it out. Hello, our name is 56. How are you? So this is great. It works with numbers. It works with strings. So we can add variables into a string, which is quite nice. So let's look at our exercise. Let me delete this. Set my name to a string equal to your, set my name to a string equal to your name and build Meister with my name between the strings. My name is, and I am well. Okay, so my name is, and I'm just going to start using random names here. Let's start with Georgina. We will start with Georgina. Folks, if you feel that I'm going too fast, I appreciate it. I'll try and slow down. But also remember, we're doing this at our own pace. This is all recorded. So don't worry if you miss something. You can catch up. So build my string with my name between the strings. My name is, and I am well. So let's do that. My name is space. My name is with a space plus my name plus space, and I am well. Let's console log that. My string. My name is Georgina, and I am well. So that's how it works. We can add strings with a variable, and I am well. That looks like what the exercise wants. Does FreeCodeCamp agree? Yep. Pat. We've got some questions in the chat about typecasting. I'm going to come back to that during the Q&A because it is interesting. Let's move on. Appending variables to strings. Okay, so just like we could add strings between, just like we could add variables between strings, we can do the same with appending, appending being adding to the end. So let's see. I'm just going to jump right into the exercise. Set some adjective to a string of at least 3 characters and append it, that is add to the end, of my string using the plus equals operator. So let's see what we got. We got a const some adjective, and it's currently an empty string. So I need to set it to a string. Let's call it super duper cool, because it is. Then we've got my string set to be learning to code is with a space. So the exercise is to use the plus equals operator on my string, plus equals some adjective. Let's console log that. I like console logging. It makes me feel safe. So console log, let's see what that gives us. Learning to code is super duper cool. I can't say that without the accent. So that looks good. That looks like what the exercise wants. As always, let's see if FreeCodeCamp agrees. And it does. Pat. Ooh, all right. Ooh, now we're going to use coding to find out the length of a string. Now, of course, we have this handy dandy operator called .length to tell us what the length of the string before it is. Now, before I do anything with the code here, I want to play around with this a little bit. Let's say I've got a string, const my name equals Gerald. So const my name equals Gerald. Let's console log my name dot length. With the dot, I'm going to be asking the string, hey, what is your length? And here we can see Gerald has a length of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try it with another string. Let's try Geraldine. That gives us 9 because we've added 3 more characters to the end. This works with spaces. Geraldine and Gerald gives us 20. So this gives us the length of a string, which is super cool. This is going to be super handy when we want to do lots of things manipulating strings in JavaScript. So length is really important to learn. So what's our exercise? Use the length property to set last name length to the number of characters in last name. Let's take a look at the code real quick. Got a comment setup. Let last name length equals 0. Const last name equals loveless. And line 5, only change the code to below this line, okay? Last name length equals last name. Let's console log last name, name length. Now here's what you're going to notice. It's printing out loveless but what the exercise wants is to set it to be the length of loveless. So let's do last name dot length. Now we set last name length to be that value, which is 8. Loveless had 8 characters. Fun fact, by the way, Loveless, Ada Lovelace, inventor of the algorithm, super cool lady. So use the .length property to set last name length to the number of characters in last name. So somebody's asking if the length function counts spaces. It absolutely does. Let's run our tests. There we go. Pat. Let's keep going. Use bracket notation to find the first character in a string. Woo. Oh. What we can do in JavaScript is find out what the character at a certain position in the string is. What does that mean? Let's find out. Let's take a look at the code real quick. We got first letter of last name. We got the last name set to loveless. And we got first letter of last name equals last name. Let's ignore all of that for just a moment. Let's console log last name. That's loveless. We know that. But what we can do, what if I wanted to find out what the first character of the last name is? We can do that with what's called bracket notation. That's using square brackets. So an open and a closed square brackets, and inside those brackets we'll put in a number. And that number is called the index or the position. But I'm going to be using the word index a lot. So if I say index, I mean position. Now this is going to seem a little counterintuitive, but believe me, you're going to get used to it. The first position, that is here, is position 0. So the first position is position 0. Let's try it out. You'll see what I mean. So the first character is L. What about the second one? Well, that'll be the second position, which is position 1. That's an O. What if we wanted to have the third character? That's at position 2. That's a V. What if we wanted the fourth? We'll do 3. If we wanted the fifth, we'll do 4. What if we want the... See, I'm already mixing myself up. 6, then we do 5. What if we do 6? We get C. What if we want the 8th one? We'll do E. But what happens if you try to get the character at a position that doesn't exist? Undefined. So the character at position 8, which is here, there is no character. So JavaScript's like, I don't know what you want. So what does that mean? This means we can use it no matter what the string is. No matter what the string is, we can find out what the character at a certain position is. So let's find out what our exercise is. Use bracket notation to find the first character in the last name variable and assign it to first letter of last name. So let's console log first letter of last name. So that'll be, I'm looking at the example above if you get stuck. Well, I'm not stuck yet. So let's see. We've got Loveless as first letter of last name. That's good. But we want to find out what the first character is. So we'll use that bracket notation again here in last name. And we'll use, remember, the first one, which starts at 0. So we'll want 0. That gives us L. L for Loveless. Let's run the test and see if that works. And there we go. Pat, pat. By the way, folks, if you're wondering where the other bootcamps are, please, please, please go to classcentral.com and you'll find it there. Okay, let's submit and go to the next challenge. Ooh, in JavaScript, strings are immutable, which is an interesting word. It means that they cannot be altered once created. Now, before we read the exercise, let's take a look at the code. We've got a variable called myString with it set to Jello World, which is fun. Then we're setting the character at position 0 to be H. So we want to see, because that's a typo, right? We don't want this to be a J, we want this to be an H. However, look at the error in the console. Cannot assign to read-only property 0 of string Jello World. Now, what does this mean? This means that we cannot change a string's characters. They are immutable. This does not mean that the variable is read-only. It means that the string itself is not changeable. This is something really important to bear in mind. Again, we can change myString. Check it out. No error. If I console log myString, it's an H. But if we try to change the character at position 0, we can't do that. So how do we fix this? Let's look at the exercise. Correct the assignment to myString so that it contains the string value of hello world using the approach shown in the example above. We wanted to change Bob to job. So what we did is we just reassigned the string. Let's try it out. So myString is set to H, which is good, but we want to change it to be hello world. So again, yes, we did have to type it all out, but remember, strings are not mutable. Strings are not changeable, but they can be reassigned. This string and this string Jello World and Hello World are completely different strings. Let's run the tests. I'll remove my console log. Run the tests. Let's see. And there we go. Pat, pat. Let's keep going. Use bracket notation to find the nth character in a string. Okay. We actually did this a little bit when we were playing around. Let's read the exercise. Let's try to set third character of last name to equal the third letter in last name variable using bracket notation. And we did this already when we were messing around. So what do we got? We got a const last name equals Loveless and const third letter of last name equals last name. Actually, we already know what to do, don't we? We'll use the bracket notation. And remember, the first position is 0. The second position is 1. The third position, the third index, is 2. This is always going to be a little bit confusing. Don't worry, I mix it up to this day. Just take some getting used to. So let's run the tests again. And here we go. Hey, there we go. Pat, pat. Nice. Let's keep going. Now this gets interesting. What if we want to get the last character in a string? Well, you might be saying, well, for Loveless, let's see what we got here. Const last name equals Loveless. Const last letter of last name is last name. Now, let me just console log last letter of last name. It's Loveless, which is good. But we want the last character, which is the E. It's at the 8th position. So we want to use 7. That'll give us the E. But then comes a problem. What if we have a different string? What if we had, for example, Gerard? Now we're getting undefined. Why is that? Because Gerard has 6 letters, but we're trying to get the 8th one. And it is possible with JavaScript to guarantee that you're going to get the last one. And the magic ticket here is using the string's length. Let's do something real quick. Loveless. Less. So let's console log last name dot length. We know that Loveless is of length 8. We know that Gerard, whoopsie daisy. Gerard is of length. What did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot. I deleted the equals. My bad. There we go. We know that Gerard is of length 6. Now, if we want to get the last character, you might have noticed we want to get the length, which is 8 or 6, but we want to get the position before that. So the position, the index will be last name dot length minus 1. So the position of the D in Gerard is going to be at position at index 5. If we want to get the last character in Loveless, we want to get the index 7, which is last name dot length minus 1. So here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to take this as is. I'm going to cut and paste. What have we done here? Const last letter of last name is equals to last name and get the character at the index last name dot length minus 1. Let's console log last letter of last name. It's an E. Let's do my last name, Guillovero. That's an O. Let's do Gerard. That's a D. Let's do A. That's an A. So that's the last character. Hope that makes sense. We can, if this gets confusing, we can always come back to it during the Q&A. Let's run our tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. All right. Talking a lot always makes me need to have a sip of water. Okay, let's use bracket notation to find the nth-to-last character in a string. For example, you can get the value of the third-to-last character of the string first name equals Augusta by using first name and the index first name dot length minus 3, which sounds a little bit confusing. Let's see what it means. And I'm going to try it actually with this example. So we've got our last name Loveless. We've got our second to last letter of last name. It's going to be last name at index last name dot length. Now, what does third to last mean? It means not the last one, not the second to last one, but the third. In this case, that would be the A. So we want to do last name dot length minus 3. Let's try it out. Console.log. This is a long variable name. Second to last letter of last name. Second to last letter of last name. That's a long variable name. So we've got, that shows us an A. Let's try it with another one. Gerard. I love me some Gerard. That gives us A as well because it's also the third to last character. But what happens if I have a string with 2 characters? Like woo. That's going to give us undefined. Why? Because there is no third to last character in this string. So with all that said, let's put Loveless back. Let's see what our exercise is. Use the bracket notation to find the second to last character in the last name string. So right now we're getting the third to last character. Last name at the index, last name.length minus 3. If we want the second to last character, we want to replace this 3 with a 2, which should give us C. And there we go. Not too different in concept. I recommend playing around with this exercise just to wrap your head around like the indexing, because it can be a little bit confusing. So let's run our tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. We are 1/3 of the way through. Next, we're going to have word blanks. You're provided sentences with some missing words like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. You then fill the missing pieces with words of your choice in a way that the completed sentence makes sense. Consider this sentence. It was really blank, and we blank ourselves blank. This sentence has 3 missing pieces, an adjective, a verb, and an adverb, and we can add words of our choice to complete it. We can then assign the completed sentence to a variable as follows. Let's see what we got. Sentence. It was really hot, and we laughed ourselves silly. Full stop. That's a lot of strings in there, and we're doing string concatenation. Now, this isn't so much a lesson as it is an exercise. So in this challenge, and we're going to do this challenge together, we provide you with a noun, a verb, an adjective, and an adverb. Before I keep reading, let's confirm. My noun, which is dog, my adjective, which is big, my verb, which is ran, and my adverb, which is quickly. Great. You need to form a complete sentence using words of your choice along with the words we provide. You will need to use the string concatenation operator plus, to build a new string using the provided variables, my noun, my adjective, my verb, and my adverb. You will then assign the form string to the word blanks variable, which I see here in line 7. Fantastic. You will also need to account for spaces in your string so that the final sentence has spaces between all the words. The result should be a complete sentence. Okay, I'm going to make this wider because we're going to need the space. So here's a sentence I want to build. Let's say the big dog ran quickly, followed by an exclamation mark. So first we'll need the. Now, remember, this does not have any spaces. So when we add that, it's going to be smushed together. So I need to add a space in the string. Then I will add the variable my noun. Then I will, actually, as I go, I'm going to console log this. Word blanks. We can already see the dog. Fantastic. Then we're going to need a space. Oh, hold on a minute. It's the big dog. My mistake. So this is actually going to be not my noun, but my adjective. A big. There we go. Then we're going to need a space between big and dog. And we can do that. You might be wondering, how do I add a space? Well, it's a string. So that'll be a string with a space. Huh? It's still the big, but notice there's a space here now. So now we'll add my noun. Oh, whoops, I forgot a plus. So we'll add to, so the plus my adjective plus space plus my noun, the big dog. Then plus another space. And we're going to need ran. So we'll need plus my verb. The big dog ran. Then plus space. And then plus, then the adverb. My adverb. The big dog ran quickly. And remember, we're going to add an exclamation mark at the end. Whew, okay. The big dog ran quickly. You might be wondering, why is there no space here? That's because it's the end of the sentence. We don't want a space there. So there's our word blanks. The big dog ran quickly. The adjective plus space plus noun plus space plus plus verb plus space plus adverb plus exclamation mark. Whew. I went through this quickly. Don't worry, it's recorded, and I recommend doing this on your own as well, just to practice. So let's run our tests. There we go. Pat, pat. All right. We're at arrays, y'all. Now, oh, I'm excited. Let's talk about arrays. Arrays are a way of storing multiple values in a list in one place. So, for example, if you want to have a list of numbers or a list of names, or let's look at this example here. We've got a sandwich, a const sandwich, which is made up of 3 strings: peanut butter, jelly, and bread. Now, you might be noticing, hey, those look familiar. So an array is usually denoted with square brackets. Now, don't get confused. This is not the same as using the square brackets to look up a character in a string. These square brackets, without a string in front of them, are used to say, hey, this is an array. Point number 1. Point number 2, each item in an array is separated with a comma. Extremely important. So, peanut butter, comma, jelly, comma, bread. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, you already have the recorded video. As soon as the stream is done, it'll be live for everybody to be able to watch at their own pace. So, you might notice there's a string between these. This is totally fine. You don't have to put it in, but I recommend doing so. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, folks. I'm actually going to copy this. Const sandwich equals, now here comes the square brackets, peanut butter, comma, jelly, comma. Look at the comma going after the quote mark. Jelly, comma, bread. Whoops, bread. Let's console log that sandwich. See what it looks like. So we've got an array made up of 3 strings: peanut butter, jelly, bread. Now the keen-eyed among you might notice, hey, Ramon, hold on a second. These are single quotes, but you typed in double quotes. Don't worry about it. It's just the way that JavaScript is interpreting these and showing it to us. It doesn't mean that they're different. It just means this is how they're being interpreted. Don't get too worried about that inconsistency. Again, an array can be a list of strings, but it can be a list of any kinds of values. For fun, I'm going to add a number, 56. Check it out. Now I've got comma 56. Now our array has peanut butter, jelly, bread, and the number 56. We can put it in between, 49. Now we got peanut butter, 49, jelly, bread, and 56. So that's how arrays work. Let's look at our exercise. We're going to modify the new array, myArray, so that it contains both a string and a number in that order. So first a string, hello JavaScripters, and then a number, 56. Let's console log that. Console log myArray. Hello JavaScripters and 56. So they're in that order. Let's see that the tests work. And they do. Pat, pat. Cool. What's our next exercise? Ooh, we're going to do this one, this last exercise, and then we're going to go into Q&A. So because an array can have lots of stuff in it, it can also, lots of different types of stuff in it. It can also have arrays inside arrays. What? Let's try it out. Const our array is equals to, let's say the number 56. I don't know why I like the number 56 today. And the second value will be an array with peanut butter and jelly. So let's, oh, whoops. Got to make this a string. So we've got our array made up of 2 items. Now you might be thinking, hold on, there's 3. Bear with me. This array here has 2 items in it. One is the number 56, and the other one is an array. Let's console log that. Console log our array. Yeah, there we go. 2 items. One is the number 56, and the other one is an array. But inside that array, a nested array, there's another 2 items. There's peanut butter and there's jelly. So that's that. Let's see what our exercise is. Create a nested array called myArray. Oh, okay. We'll do the string hello. And then inside the second item will be another array, which is made up of the number 56 and 49. Let's console log myArray. We'll get the string hello, followed by the array. And inside that array, there's 56 and 49. Whew. Okay, so we can have arrays inside arrays. And in case you're wondering, can we have arrays inside arrays inside arrays? Yes, we can. Let's try it out. Oh my goodness, we're going to do this, aren't we? World. So now we've got an array made up of 2 items. One is the string hello, and the other one is this array. Inside that array, there is 3 items, the number 56, the number 49, and another array. And inside that array, there is just 1 item with the string world. This can be really confusing at first. Don't get discouraged as this is a lot at once. This is why this is self-paced. This is why we're around to answer any questions you might have. Let's run the tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. And this is where we will stop for today. Now, the next exercise is going to involve indexes, which you might recognize from strings. But this is where I will leave you some homework. Let's go back to the basic JavaScript module, and let's see where the homework will take us. So we've done a whole bunch of exercises. We've done quite a few of exercises. Oh my goodness. So your homework will be to do everything until write reusable JavaScript with functions. That means you will not do write reusable JavaScript with functions. We'll do that. We'll start there tomorrow, but I'm leaving you with a chunk of homework. You will do access array data with indexes, modify array data with indexes, multidimensional arrays with indexes, push, pop, shift, unshift, and then the exercise shopping list. This is a lot, and I want to encourage folks to collaborate. Use the Discord, use the forum. You'll find the link in your Class Central dashboard. With all that said, let's do some Q&A, shall we? Shall we? Could I please ask my wonderful assistant to bring up some questions for me? Okay, so the first question is there a difference if we do ++a instead of a++? Now I'm gonna say we haven't done plus and we haven't done plus yet, have we? I don't think we have. We'll do it anyway. So, sorry, Wilbert Osmond is saying that's pretty chill, and as Jess would say, everything is chill. So let's have a variable. Actually, no, sorry. We will have a variable called a, and we'll set it to be the number 1. Let's console log a. That will console log 1. Now, what if I do a++? Oh, sorry, it's a const. My bad. I can't. What a++ does is add 1 to a. Add 1 to a. But of course, a is a const, so I can't do that. I have to use let. So what do we got? Let a equals 1, console log a plus plus. It's still 1. But look at what happens if I do console log a again. Now we're printing twice. Once it's 1, and then if I print out a again, it's 2. What happened? A got incremented by 1 after this line was executed. This is called a postfix execution. So after it was executed, we added 1 to A, which gives us 2. But watch what happens if I do it beforehand. Now we're still adding 1 to A, but this is prefix, which means it's adding 1 to A before the line is executed. So plus plus A, now A is 2. Whoopsie, now A is 2. That is the difference between A plus plus and plus plus A. Hope that helps. Let's get the next question, shall we? How would we add a Boolean data type to the array if it's possible? Once again, we're getting a little bit ahead of the material, but that's fine. Let's talk about Booleans real quick. Booleans are special values in JavaScript that have one of two possible values. They can be true, true, or they can be false. This is useful for finding out conditional operations. For example, is A bigger than 1? True or false. So we can store this in a variable. Const my Boolean equals true. Let's console log my Boolean. This is true. Now, back to the question. Can we store Booleans in array? Yes. Let's do that. Oh, we have my array right here. How nice. So let's do true 56, false 1. Console log my array. We've got true, 56, false, and 1. Don't worry too much if that didn't make too much sense about Booleans yet. We will be going into these later in the bootcamp. So thank you for asking. What's our next question? What do you suggest using -1 for the last character using bracket notation and all? Which one is the perfect and specially printing some characters range within a string using myString: 1? Whoops, this might be a little bit beyond my scope. Let's find out. So your question is, what is it again? For the last character. Okay, let's get a string going. Const myString equals hello world. And you want to know, because we can console log myString, we want to get that last character, which is with the bracket notation, myString.length -1. That gives us the exclamation mark, because that's the last character. Jose, I ask you, seeing how do we get the last position? There you go. myString.length -1. So your question, can you bring up the question again, please, Galbrash? Right. Which one is perfect, and especially printing some characters in a range? Do you know what? I'm actually going to be a little bit cheeky and say, hold that question, because we will get to it later in the bootcamp. If not, I recommend looking up splice and slice on MDN. But I'm going to be a little bit, I want to prioritize questions that are related to the content from today. So thank you for asking. We will get to it. Look up splice and slice. What's the next question? What happens if we use -? You want to go back to the A++ question. It's the same, by the way, but with, sorry, I'm just going to undo a whole bunch. Here we go. So you're wondering what happens if we use -? Great question. It's the same as ++, but negative. So like instead of adding 1, it'll subtract 1. A will give us 0. And the same works in the prefix. 0. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Like, don't worry if you don't have If you don't like, if you've also got questions related to around the world of tech and JavaScript, that's totally okay. Like I said, I'm just prioritizing questions related with the content. Why can't you modify the strings? What is the meaning of mutable and immutable in JavaScript? Why can't you? I don't know why, but this is a language rule. Some languages will allow you to modify strings, meaning they're mutable, meaning they can be mutated, meaning they can be modified. Some languages will allow that. Can't think of one off the top of my head. Maybe Ruby. Maybe Ruby allows that. I could be wrong. So why? I don't know. Maybe it's to make sure that that string is pure and we don't modify its data, therefore leading to errors. One example, oh, okay, I've got an idea of why. Say, for example, you're interacting with, and I'm going to throw out a more advanced topic here. Say, for example, you're communicating with data across the internet using APIs and server requests, right? These communications can take place in the form of sending strings. So to make sure that those strings don't get modified, to make sure that that data doesn't get lost as it gets transmitted, we just make sure that that string is unmodifiable, immutable. That's a great question. There was a second part to that question. I can't remember. Could you please bring it back up, Galbrush, if you don't mind? Why can't we modify strings? What does immutable mean? No, I think I covered it. Yeah, that's it. That's why, and that's mutable and immutable. Thank you for asking. Let's do the next question. Can you explain typecasting in JavaScript? Because in Python, you might have to convert some variables sometimes using int and str. Great question. Typecasting. So now, remember yesterday we touched upon TypeScript a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on that. But let me say this. Console log, I think we can do type of 1. Yeah. So we've got this. Remember yesterday somebody asked. So we can see that the type of 1 is number. Let's try hello. That's a string. Let's try a Boolean. No, whoops. True. There we go. It's a Boolean. Let's try 1. That's interesting. Not an array, it's an object. So these are the different types of things in JavaScript. Now, what was the question again? Right, typecasting. So what happens? Let's say we've got a const my string. Hello, this number is, I'm going to add to it the number 56. Now, let's print out my string. Hello, this number is 56. Now, what do you think the type of, well, it's a bit of an obvious giveaway because I named the variable, but what's going on here? Type of my string is going to be string. That means that all of this is a string. But what's going on? When we're adding 56 to the string, JavaScript is going, hold on. This is a number and this is a string. These are not the same. I'm going to take this number 56 and coerce it or convert it or typecast it into a string, right? I'm going to just assume it's a string. So what does that mean? It means that this, doing this semantically is the same. That means that, hello, this number is 56. What we've done here is we've got a string, we added them together. Here we say we got a string, we got a number. Let's turn that into a string and add them together. Concatenate them, pardon me. That's typecasting. That's type coercion. And that's what JavaScript, we're gonna see that a lot, especially in future lessons, how JavaScript does this and what it means. Great question, by the way. Thank you. I was really excited to answer, but it's like, I gotta keep going with the lesson. Any other questions? Hello, Ramon. What is the key difference between jQuery and JavaScript? This is a great question. And I don't know if there's a difference. I can't say that there's a difference per se. So let me explain. JavaScript, programming language built into the browser. There's Node.js for running it in the backend. There's lots of alternatives to Node.js as well. We know it, we love it. Now, jQuery is a library. Remember somebody yesterday asked about libraries? Library is a set of pre-written code that is provided to us either via open source or with a paid license so that we can integrate it into our JavaScript code and use it. So jQuery is a library that makes it easier to manipulate and interact with the DOM or data object model in a website via its HTML and CSS. Right? So once again, jQuery is a library that makes it easier to manipulate our JavaScript. Our HTML and CSS. Now, I want to say that with a caveat. jQuery is a fairly long in the tooth. It's not the newest library, and it's generally considered an older practice to use it. Now, I want to be very careful with that. That does not mean it's a bad idea to use it. Plenty of websites that are still running to this day use jQuery. So, I mean, I wouldn't call it the first thing that you go out and learn. But if you ever run into it, you can look up its documentation and find your way around. I recommend familiarizing yourself with the concepts of JavaScript before going into jQuery. I hope that was an okay answer. What else we got? Any other questions? How do you nest arrays? Cool. Well, let's take a look at our array. We've got an array here. Let's console log my array. Right now, we've got an array 56 and 49. If I want to make the third member of this array an array, I just use another set of square brackets. So there we've got 1, 2, 3 objects inside this array, and inside that array, we've got 1 object. That's how we nest arrays. So you just use square brackets. In fact, nested array. Check it out. We're going to make it a variable called nested array. We're going to set its value to be an array with hello in it. Nested array. Check it out. It looks the same. Why? Because we've nested array inside my array. That's a bit confusing, and but I hope that makes sense. Any other questions? What if a number is a screen and it's added to a number? Oh, for example, 34 plus 5. Can we force JS to count the sum and not make it a string? Good question. So let's, that's a great question. Let's do that. So let's say const my sum equals, what is it? 34 plus 5. And let's do my sum. Now, what's the problem here? We're getting 3, 4, 5, which of course is not the sum of 34 and 5. What's happening here is that JavaScript is saying, okay, you're a string, I got you. You're a number, I got you as well. I'll just turn you into a string. But what happens if we do it the other way around? What if we do 5 plus 34? Same thing. So, I mean, it's not the same result, but it's still turning the number into a string and then concatenating the two strings. But what you're asking is, how can we have an addition? How can we turn 34 into a number? And I believe, let me see if I can do this from memory. I believe what we can do is use this special function helper called number, and in brackets, put in the string. So capital N number, then smooth brackets, parentheses, and then the string. That'll turn it into a number and do our sum correctly. Thank you for asking. Any other questions? What happens if we add brackets to strings hello world instead of doing this, hello world? Well, the only way to know that is to find out. So let's do it. My string equals hello world. I know we're doing it the way you didn't want first. So that gives us hello world. If we're console logging my string, which is hello world, I forgot to, y'all got to remind me to put the semicolons. Hello world, then that gets printed out as hello world, which is all well and good. But you're asking, what if I put in brackets? It still works. I would discourage doing this because this can get confusing. Brackets can get used for functions, parameters, arguments. I wouldn't do this. So I wouldn't assume that this is a best practice. Absolutely not. Do it this way. Any other questions? Can we add arrays? I don't know. Let's find out. So let's say we've got nested array, like a first array and second array. Okay. And let's console log first array plus second array. Now check it out. It literally added the string to hello 56, which is not quite what we wanted. It is possible, and I'm going to recommend going to look this up on MDN. You can use a function, and we will use this later in the bootcamp, called concat. So now we're going to take the first array, which remember is hello, and concat. Look at the dot. The dot is very important. The dot is calling a function or querying a prototype or attribute. We'll get more into this later on in the bootcamp. But yes, we're going to concatenate second array, and that gives us hello, 56, 49 as one big array. Good question. What else we got? Const is supposed to make variables unchangeable, but array items can change. Yes, yes, it can. Now that's a bit confusing, isn't it? Because unlike strings, arrays are mutable. Let's take a look at what that means. So we've got, let's look at this first array. We got const first array equals hello. Now, what we can do is, and you're going to get into this in the homework, you can set the first member of that array to be equals world. Console log first array. See, now the array is not with one item of a string of hello, but it's one item with a string of world. What happened? Let's take a look at line 5. And again, don't worry about this now. You're going to do it in the homework as well. We've set the first member of that array to be world. That doesn't mean that we've changed the variable first array. The variable first array has not been assigned, but rather the first member of the array inside the variable first array has been changed. So 3 key points here. 1, the const has not been reassigned. Brilliant. 2, arrays, unlike strings, are mutable, which means they can be modified. 3, we can reassign members of an array by using the square brackets like we do with strings and the index and then the assignment operator. Hope that helps. What else we got? Any other questions? We got about 5 more minutes for question. Pravesh, you caught me. You caught me. Is semicolon necessary after each line of code? Is it necessary? No. Is it conventional? Yes. Now, different projects will disagree on this. A semicolon is helpful to tell us and JavaScript the end of a line. Now, modern JavaScript does not actually require these. But I recommend using them. Other projects might say, no, we don't want semicolons, and that's okay. The great thing about programmers is that we are flexible. Great question. Thank you for catching me. What else we got? Any other questions? Can you explain multi-dimensional arrays and how we traverse their array update delete across specific values? Aman, I would normally say yes, but this is actually going to be handled in the homework. So I would rather we kept this question for later, maybe tomorrow, or later on Discord or the forum. So this is super helpful, and if needed, I will do a little bit of extra time tomorrow to modify this. So let me make you a deal. Not today, latest tomorrow. Sorry, not right now, latest tomorrow. I hope that's okay, but I want to make sure that we're handling content from this lesson. Any other questions? Is there a core set of JavaScript code you really have to memorize before looking up? That's a hard question. I think the fundamentals that we are covering here are helpful to be familiar with. So, for example, we're going to be learning about loops. We're going to be learning about functions. We're going to be learning about arrow functions, promises, maps, classes, objects, regular expressions. Knowing how to do it from memory, I don't know if I could do it. But being familiar with the concept and being able to look it up, that's much more important. That doesn't mean memorizing every character. That doesn't mean like understanding, oh yeah, I can do recursion, no problem from scratch, but rather understanding the core principles behind it and then being able to go from there. I hope that answers your question. We're running low on water. Any other questions? Mo is asking, what's the difference between a library and a framework? I answered this question yesterday, so you can go and watch that video, but I'll give you the short answer. Library, pre-written code provided by open source. Framework is a library that lets you write apps or command line tools or any kinds of other application. It's a framework. It's a scaffolding. Short answer, longer answer, yesterday's video. Thank you for asking. Anything else? Does JavaScript have tuples? Y'all are going into the hard questions today, huh? Let's have a quick look. Does JavaScript have tuples? I don't think so. So Stack Overflow, if you're not familiar, it is your friend. It'll help. Lots of people are asking these questions, and it would appear, whoops, let me make this bigger. But in short, no, JavaScript doesn't have tuples. Tuples, by the way, are values that are, comma, like in brackets, made up of two values. Don't confuse this with arrays. Arrays can have two values, but a tuple is a dedicated data type that has two values. So no tuples, but yes, you can have arrays with two values in them. Any other questions? What are primitives? In JavaScript, what are primitives? Primitives are the basic data types. We've been looking at some of them. Numbers, arrays are not basic primitive. Oh, I think they are. Sorry. Arrays can be made up of primitives. Yes. Numbers, Booleans, strings, null values. These are all primitive. We can have our own data types, which we will explore later on in object-oriented programming, where we will see things that are not primitive. Any other questions? Can you please differentiate between an array, an object, and a class? Again, this is content that we're going to cover later on in the bootcamp, so I'll give you the short answer. An array is a list of any kind of value. An object is any kind of do you know what? I'm going to get a better definition from MDN. Object. Global object. No, I want to know what an object is. I can spell object. Nearly all objects in JavaScript are instances of object. A typical object inherits properties from object.prototype. Here we go. Data types. So we can have lots of types of data types, and one of them is object. And we will actually be exploring object later on, but it is essentially a storage space for any kind of values we want. Kind of like arrays, but they will have keys and values. We will explore that further. Finally, a class is a function that helps us create objects. Again, you're asking questions ahead of the bootcamp, so I'm going to give you the short answer so that I can let folks ask questions related to the content. So, last question, and then we're going to go and rest, huh? What do we got? Oh, I think that's the last question because the rest seem to be repeats. Yeah, Kyle Ritz is answering very nicely here. Here are some types of primitives: number, string, null, Boolean, undefined, bigint, and symbol. So those are the primitive types, which can then be used inside objects. But again, we'll get back to that later on in the bootcamp. So, last thing before we go, homework. Just want to repeat the homework. The homework is to do everything we haven't covered yet, including shopping list. Tomorrow, we will start with write reusable JavaScript with functions. So thank you all for your questions. Couple things before we go. So first off, you can enroll in the bootcamp here on classcentral.com. To follow along with these exercises, go to freecodecamp.org. The forum you will find at group.classcentral.com. There, and in these links, you will also find the link to the Discord. Now, I want to encourage you all, please collaborate. There are now 7,000 of you doing this bootcamp with me, which is amazing. And the whole point of having such a large group is to be able to help each other answer your questions. I am one person. I'm not going to have to be able to have the stamina to be able to help all of you at once. So I just want to encourage you to collaborate, ask questions, do some exercises ahead if you want, so that tomorrow when people are asking questions in the chat, you can answer them. Create study groups. Seriously, we've got the Discord there so you can chat with one another. I will say though, if you want to chat with one another, you can DM each other if you want, but do so respectfully, please. Be nice to one another. Remember, we've got a code of conduct. Remember, just saying like, hey, thanks for your help today. Would you like to study together? Something like this. Being polite, I think, is important. And with that, I will give you one more big pat, and I wish you the most wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye now.